All right, so let's go over this hand that you got here.
Yeah, sure. So we're playing at Crown Melbourne again, 251K cap, and the effective stack is about $1,500.
All right, so Crown Melbourne, well, 1K cap, $1,500. Okay.
Yes, yeah. The villain in this hand is seat one, and he is under the gun, and he raises $220.
All right, so yep, UTG to 20. Okay.
Yeah, and the seat one knows I'm a CLP sub. He's heard my other call-in
Okay.
calls, and he watches your content.
Okay. So a CLP sub. Okay.
No, he's not a CLP
Oh,
sub.
not a CLP sub, but he knows you are. Okay.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Plus one calls, and plus one is the spot on the table at this point in time.
Okay.
And then I'm in the hijack,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got Jack of Hearts and Jack of Spades, and I raise to $125.
So 3-bet to 125. So under the gun to 20, plus one calls here in the hijack, 3-bets to 125. You said 1,500 effective too, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I like it. I mean, you're going, well, you're actually going a little bit on the large side. I mean, you're going 4x plus a dead call. Going a little bit large. I mean, where I might exploit here is if I know that flat caller in between is like really, really splashy. If you went, say, like 4x plus a call, it would be 100. But you guys are relatively deep. So you go to 125 from the hijack with jacks, okay?
Yeah, and as I said, the caller in the middle is the spot on the table.
Right.
He is splashy. That is
Right.
one of the reasons why I sized up as exploiter, just to get extra money.
Right.
And so the under the gun calls, and everyone else folds.
So the plus one guy folds.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So the initial raiser, the guy that made it 20, he calls. The spot gets out of there.
Yes.
All right. So it looks like it's $270 to the flop. You're in position with jacks and a 3-bet pot. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And the flop is 7 of hearts, 4 of clubs, 3 of hearts.
7 of hearts, 4 of clubs, 3 of hearts. Here with an overpair. Okay.
And he checks to me.
All right. So UTD checks. Okay.
So I have it at $300. So I size down at this point in time and bet $85.
Maybe were there 2 callers in between on the flop or something like that?
Oh, sorry, I've given you the action slightly wrong. You're right. There was 2 callers pre-flop, plus one and the hijack call, and I'm on the button.
Okay. So under the gun to 20, plus one calls, hijack calls. That's what I was here on the button. 3-bets to 125. Okay, so that makes a little more sense in terms of the sizing. Under the gun calls, fold. We're at 300. So there was extra people in there. Fold. We're at 300. The board comes out 7 of hearts, 4 of clubs, 3 of hearts, pot's 300. Under the gun checks. Okay.
Yes, and I bet $85.
So wow, 85. Kind of small, very small, right? I mean,
yes. So when the opponent, when the villain just opens under the gun and then raises, I range him on reasonable sized suited aces, and I think his range is heavily weighted to pocket pairs at this point in time. So quite likely he could have sevens. That would probably be sort of at the lower end of his range, sixes and sevens, through to probably queens.
Well, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. It just seems like it's usually when you get in 3-bet pots, when you get these low boards that aren't supposed to be all that represented because it's a very, very tight configuration. Like he really shouldn't have 3s and 4s here, and he can have 7s. He shouldn't. I'm just saying he shouldn't have 5-6 suited because of the people that have called in between. He also shouldn't ever really have aces or kings, and I do think that queen is 4-bet quite a bit. So this is interesting, even though we went back and cleaned that up. You got, because you have UTG opening and then you've got 2 dead calls in between and you're 3-betting, I think queen 4-bets a lot in that spot because of those 2 dead callers. Definitely king, and a lot of times queen. He's not supposed to have the thick nut hands with the one exception of pocket 7s. Not 3s, not 4s, not 5, 6 because of preflop configuration. Now, how would that be reflected on this particular board? I think you would actually be allowed to go larger here to try to get value from those other sort of pair portions of his range and some ace highs that he's forced to maybe continue, although he probably should be 4-betting a fair amount here with ace king as well. So that's how pre-flop actually kind of affects that. And if you were to looking ahead at this hand, like if you were to look at a situation where maybe you bet and the guy calls, and then the turn comes. It's not really a high card, but it's a brick, and you bet it calls again. Maybe the river pair is like the low card, and then you're thinking about, can I go, take Jack Jack for 3 streets? If that happens, I don't remember. Go back to pre-flop. I'm thinking way ahead here because I think that unless this guy has 7-7 here, you're ahead here a ton because of what he would do pre with the folding out of 4-4 and 3-3 and 4 betting queen plus. That would seem to mean that I would allow me to go larger on the flop.
Yeah, okay, I like that logic. I would still put queen in this particular player's range. He's a little bit on the tight. Well, he's quite a bit on the tighter side. He definitely 100% four bets aces and kings.
Mm-hmm.
Probably doesn't four bet ace king. Definitely doesn't four bet ace king off versus me. But so you're right. The only thing I'm losing to on this flop is 7-7 or queen. And so yeah, I've clearly missed some value here when I'm only betting 85.
So he calls.
Yes, he calls.
All right, so 185 in a call, 170. Pot is now 470. Okay.
Yeah, the turn is the 8 of diamonds.
All right, so the 8 of diamonds comes in here on the turn. What that changes is obviously like if he had pocket eights, right? Now it's less likely that he has pocket eights, but that could be a hand that he could have. There's still 12 combos of 10s and 9s out here, and maybe some ace king or some suited aces, maybe with a flush draw that just calls pre. Like, it doesn't sound like this is the guy that 4 bets here with like ace jack suited, ace queen suited, maybe like ace 10 suited. So, you're still kind of ahead of 15 combos. If you were to look at that range, and then also too, maybe some like suited, like king, queen suited, maybe something like that, queen, give him like maybe 3 flush draws, and then 3 or 4 flush draws. You've got 6 combos of 9, 6 combos of 10s. That's like 15 combos you're ahead of, and you're still only really behind 6 combos of 7-7 and 8-8. So, I count this like you're still ahead here, like maybe as much as 2.5 times or more than you're behind.
Yes, I agree with your analysis completely. In game, in time, I flipped my hand from being, to be honest, you've just pointed out it is reasonably thick value. At this point in time, I thought I actually had not much more than showdown value, and I figured that he was more likely to bluff a missed heart draw on the river. So he checks to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I checked behind, putting my hand into, I've got showdown value, and I'm going to either bluff catch or maybe bet thinly on the river, depending on what comes out.
The only thing I would say about that is that because you specifically have Jack Jack here, there's just a lot of cards that could come here at the end that are just going to prevent you from betting, I feel like. Like, you're probably not going to want to bet on cards that come that are overcards all that much. You're probably not going to want to bet. You got an interior 5 and a 6, put a one-liner out there, any heart. You might get scared of a 9 because we talked about 9s and 10s. Past the board pairing here or like an offsuit deuce, there isn't a whole lot of clean river cards here for you to like play this as a check back thin value at the end. So when you get a board like this, which is just so dynamic in that facet, especially with the type of hand that you have, I would do more betting here. If you want to bet and then check behind on the river, so be it. But I would be way more likely to try to get value now and then evaluate river than kind of like checking back, giving a free card and sort of hoping that one of very few cards come where you could get 2 streets of thin value where you wouldn't otherwise have gotten it on the turn.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. I posted this in Discord when I played this hand about 3 weeks ago, and most people had the same line as you, which is get the value now rather than try and go for it on the river.
Yeah.
Because as I said, I've checked back, and then I do get one of the cards that you actually named on the river. I get the 5 of clubs on the river.
Yeah. So now the board is 7, 4, 3, 8, 5. One liner here to a 6, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And now he checks to you again?
And yes, he checks to me again. And as I said, I've ranged him early on as to having 2 big cards with hearts or having a middle pair. I said 6s was unlikely. 7s and 8s definitely in his range.
Well, how about this? You don't think he's got a busted flush draw now, though, right?
Well, if he's got a busted flush draw, he's not calling any sort of bet.
No, but he would have probably, the whole reason why you check back the turn was because you wanted to pick off a busted flush draw. Like if he had a hand like king, queen, king, jack, queen, jack of hearts here, right? And you check back turn and he gets this run out, he's going to bluff the river, right? On a one liner to a 6.
100%.
Right. So I tend to discount any busted flush draw. I mean, maybe once in a while he's got he thinks he's got showdown value with like ace, queen of hearts or something like that. What's interesting here, and we always teach on Crush Light Poker, sometimes in spots like this, you can go really, really thin for value. The part that I find interesting here is that if he had 5s or 6, even if he has any of those hands, obviously 6s is a straight, or if he had a set here, I feel like people aren't checking to the preflop 3-better on this run out if they had a set of 7s or a set of 8s, scared of 6x in a 3-bet pot. So if you believe my take that it's unlikely that he has a set, for the same reasons it's unlikely that he has a straight for those reasons because he's betting, he's checking, which means he doesn't have a busted flush draw. Are we left with him having like a hand like 9s and 10s or like ace king that somehow is going to be like, I don't believe this guy. I would never bet anything if I was in my opponent's spot. So I'm going to hero call you. So even though I like a bet on turn here, I might bet the river for those reasons. And again, it's because I think sets bet, flush draws are bluffing. Neither of those are happening. And also maybe he's got like an ace 5 suited, which like pairs up or something like that at the end. And the reason to not bet, someone might be saying, you can never get called by worse. If the hero goes like 200, 250 in a 470, I don't think 9s and 10s are folding after the hero checks back the turn. So I can get on board with a thin bet here for those reasons.
Okay, so I never thought that logic that you just expanded out, that set of 7s and a 7 of 8s is not going to check twice to me, which you are completely correct. This player, if he has 7s or 8s, like particularly if he had turned 8s, check to me and I check behind, he will bet 100%. And I didn't think of that in game.
I mean, that's the node lock. The node lock is he's betting sets and he's betting busted flush draws here a lot. So what are we left with then? He's probably left with some sort of showdown value that's not a set and not a straight. And I think Jack-Jack does well enough to get a value bet in here from that range.
Okay. So I definitely missed value then as well, because I checked behind as well.
And what did he have?
He had pocket 10s. Yeah, this one physically hurt me.
Pocket 10s. Now, I honestly, I just, again, it kind of flows in. I know you got to run, but it just kind of flows into, because so few people in your pool will bet Jack-Jack in this spot on this run out, you would be surprised how often you're going to get looked up by a hand that has some showdown value. And because of his river action from up front, because you check back turn, we sort of determined that he does have showdown value. So that's kind of my take. But thanks for getting up early and calling it in. Appreciate it.